Episode 30, everybody. Tampa Bay Developer Podcast. 30, dude. 30 straight weeks in a row.
Wow.
We're about to get slammed by a freaking hurricane, so we had to get the studio all set up.
Oh, yeah.
Get rolling here.
We are rock and rolling.
I love it, dude. I think this is a super cool setup. Quality's better. Lighting is better.
Amen.
Sound is better. All quality, all better all around. Our own exclusive studio outside of the real estate company.
Absolutely.
All good things, bro.
And we don't even have to touch it, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to be on the show? See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Same time. Just meet them same time. Bam. Press record. Simple.
That's the best part, right? Like, we don't have to set up the studio in the conference room, take it down, do a team meeting, put it back up, have another guest come in. That was a pain in the ass.
And now here we are.
But we got it done.
Back better than ever.
Better than ever, everybody. What's up with this hurricane, dude? Look up
What's the consensus?
The NOAA. What do you follow? Who's your guy besides Dennis?
Dennis is the only guy, dude.
Who do you typically follow, though?
I got Fiverr pulled up.
Who does your family follow?
I would say Bay News 9, dude.
Bay News 9, for sure. Bay News 9 is the classic. No, go to NOAA. That's like the official National Oceanic Administration Association, whatever it's called.
Fact
National
check it?
Hurricane
Should we
Center.
fact check that?
Go to right there, Hurricane Idalia. Let's see where we're at. I think it's good news. Scroll up, go to warning cone static images, kind of on the top right, the picture. Nope, to the right. Okay, now hit 3 days forecast track line on. This is what I always go to. This is updated every, I think, 3 hours. Okay, so it's getting better. So it's scooting west. Looks like we're going to avoid most of it. Thank God.
Amazing. Well, not so amazing.
Not amazing if you live in Cedar Key, but amazing if you live in Tampa. That's good news.
Yeah, man. It's those Indian burial grounds, dude.
It must be.
It's definitely what it is, man. That's all the buzz is. Those Indian burial grounds have been keeping us safe for that past 100 years.
That's what everyone says.
Yeah.
My grandmother a long, long time ago dated this guy, and he was a property owner in Sarasota. He probably owned like hundreds of acres of like citrus groves and stuff like that. And on the property was a freaking Indian burial mound, dude. And I remember as a kid, we would ride around there all the time. And I remember riding around this thing, and it was just this literal like mound of dirt, grass grown all over it, a couple trees on it. Not that big, maybe 15 feet high, but spread out like
I was gonna say they can be pretty big, right?
They can be huge. Like the one in
dude.
Safety Harbor, that's the one everyone talks about. That one's huge. Safety Harbor Mound, you could probably type in. But the one at my grandmother's, I guess, boyfriend's property was unbelievable to see. And it was all fenced off by, I think, the state of Florida, and probably the federal government protects it in some way. But I thought about as a kid, holy shit, you could go over there and dig up like bones and arrowheads and Safety Harbor Mound at Philippi Park. Yeah, so this is the one that everyone talks about. This is the one that apparently keeps us safe from hurricanes. Go to that picture on the left with the Native Americans there with the mound. Yeah, so apparently this is what it would have looked like 1,000 years ago.
And they might have structures on top of those mounds. Obviously not there anymore.
Yeah, right now it's just a park. It's really pretty. It's kind of interesting how it's a big
awesome.
hill in Florida on the coast, which is kind of unique to that area. But yeah, apparently this is the culture that has blessed us, from being protected by hurricanes.
That's wild.
It's really geographical. That's the reason Tampa doesn't get hit. It would take a hurricane like threading the needle through Tampa Bay to really, to get a direct hit. But yeah, hey, maybe it's the Indians, maybe it's geography, maybe it's a little bit of both. But either way, I'm thankful.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully that thing stays just west of us, but we'll have to see. That's the thing about hurricanes or tropical storms, whatever it is. You never really know. We can predict all we want, but with moments notice, I think it's like a hard right turn right towards us.
Yeah, that was like, what was the bad one last year? Was that Irma or Ivan? I can't remember. They all start with I. What the fuck is up with that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why are they all I's? It's
There's
like
got to be some reason for
every
that.
time the alphabet comes to I, it's a bad storm. And
Yeah,
it's
hitting
headed our
Florida.
direction.
It's gonna hit. It's gonna hit Florida. Yeah,
Why is that? It's so weird.
that is strange.
But whatever one was last year, I think it was Irma. That one was really on a collision course with Tampa. I remember when they first brought that kind of cone spaghetti model graphic out, it was supposed to come right up the bay and nail us. But then that one took a sharp right kind of at the last minute too.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Seriously.
And then this one's taking a little bit of a left turn. So we
Weird.
shall see. When is this supposed
Kinda
to
weird.
hit? Tonight?
It's tonight. We're supposed to get like the very early parts of it. Maybe
Yeah.
early in the morning tomorrow. It's gonna come through. I'll pull it back up.
By the
here so I
time
don't
this
fact
episode
check
airs,
that.
it'll be blown over by then. This will air
Long
Friday.
gone.
Today's Tuesday. So 8
2
a.m.
p.m.
Wednesday. So
Tuesday's right
Wednesday
here, so
morning.
yeah, Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning.
If it decides to, it'd probably be like a
Jackknife over.
Tuesday night.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, though.
Yeah,
The Indians have blessed us with their sacred ground.
thank God.
Thank
Safety
God.
Harbor, super interesting. Looking into that, the burial grounds, and just the name Safety Harbor,
Yeah.
super interesting. They got those burial
Taco Bell.
grounds there.
Yeah.
Heard something about pirates back in the day. Like it just was known as a safe place.
Yeah, that's why this area was first developed pre-Fort Brooke. So, Fort Brooke was, I think, founded kind of towards the Civil War, which was in the 1860s. Pre-1860, this area was a phenomenal harbor, safe harbor, where some of those Spanish ships came, and there's tales of obviously pirates like Jose Gaspar and all these pirates from the 14, 15, and 1600s coming to this area for refuge. And obviously, when the Spaniards came and found the Tocobaga city, this like kingdom, we all know how that ended up, those diseases, and they were murdered, and those tribes no longer exist. But they came here because this was a really unique place. If you think about Tampa Bay and the large body of water it is off the Gulf of Mexico, it is a safe harbor. It's an awesome natural safe harbor. If you look at any really ancient city 500 years ago or more, a lot of the major cities were on harbors like this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Pre-railroad, the way shipping was done around the world was by boat.
Yeah.
So to have a natural safe harbor was a key component of a great
Exactly.
city.
If Tampa was on the other coast, I could see back in those historical days, I could see exactly on South Tampa where the Air Force base is at. I could see a big fort being built there and that being just a key pointer. Like you said, it's just a great harbor.
Well, dude, type in Fort DeSoto. So Fort DeSoto is at the mouth of Tampa Bay, right where the Sunshine Skyway is. And that was a fort, I believe, from the Civil War or maybe a little later, but that was to protect this large bay here, Fort DeSoto Park. You can actually go there. Fort DeSoto and also Egmont Key, I believe, is a Civil War fort, but you can go there and see the ruins. Yeah, there's a picture right there of the ruins. Absolutely fascinating. Look at that. Look at the artillery and the cannons and the fort they had set up to protect this bay. Really cool,
So
man.
awesome. I'm so fascinated by that.
There's a lot of cool history here that people forget. I think there was actually even a battle there. If you look up like the Battle of Tampa during the Civil War, there was a little short skirmish out in the water. I think there was some rounds exchanged, some cannon fire, stuff like that. But this area has interesting military history. Yeah, the Battle of Tampa, also known as the Yankee outage of Tampa, outrage at Tampa, was a minor engagement of the American Civil War, fought June 30th to July 1st, 1862, between
Wow.
the U.S. Navy and the Confederate Artillery Company. So the Confederate artillery was actually protecting Tampa. Tampa was a part of, obviously, the Confederate States of America, Florida being a Confederate state. And the United States came in to try to block the blockade or pushed past the blockade and the Confederate troops fired artillery. That was the Battle of Tampa. How wild is that, man?
Yeah, crazy.
Listen to this. On April 13th, 1862, at 11 a.m., the alarm went up when a Union schooner anchored behind an island 2 miles from Tampa. Confederate pickets were posted on all the roads into town to sound the alarm because it was feared the ship was a decoy. Wow. Interesting. We are the opinion the Yankees have landed men below us and came on a schooner to draw our attention while they march up the rear. Interesting. The Federals demanded the surrender of Tampa. Major Thomas told them he would not surrender.
Not surrender. That's how we
The
get
Yankee officer gave them 24 hours to take the women and children out of town as they would attack Tampa. How fascinating. So what's
cool.
this map right here? Click the map. This is the battle area, I'm assuming. Davis Islands was built in the 1920s. So this was obviously Davis Islands was not
Pre-Davis
there.
Islands.
Battlefield study area. Interesting. I wonder if they found like cannonballs and shit in the bay.
Dude.
Probably, right?
Probably. Most likely, dude.
Fascinating history, man.
Hooker's Point.
Harbor Island, you know, before that was all residential, that was just a scrub island that was dirty and had some sort of a port. I don't know if it was storage for port materials, but there was actually a railroad that went from Harbor Island. I think it was called Seton Island back then. But you would transport materials from Seton Island to the mainland.
Interesting.
Yep. And then that, I think, was bought by the Beneficial Development Company for like $2 million or $3 million or something like that. And that was developed into a residential neighborhood. It's pretty unbelievable to think not that long ago, 100 years ago, and even in like the 1980s and 1960s, there's a lot of areas in Tampa that were created from the water. Like Davis Islands didn't exist. It's not natural. That's a man-made island. Harbor Island was like kind of half man-made, half natural. A lot of those areas too, near West Shore, like Sunset Park, Beach Park, Colbert Isles, like that area.
Right.
A lot of that was built in and filled with sand. That didn't exist.
It's crazy. That is nuts.
I saw, look up Rocky Point Build Island or like Rocky Point Dredge. And Rocky Point, west of the airport, that's an area where recently there's been a developer that has either submitted plans or has started to get plans together to build out an area for increased land to develop. Rocky Point, Tampa. Let's see if we can find it. That's the ultimate as a developer, right? There's no land available, so you just dredge the seafloor and build an island. Begins construction. I don't know if we'll be able to find it. Oh, right here. Tampa City Council kills controversial plan to fill open water off North Rocky Point Drive. Look at this. This is dated 2018. So Tampa City Council said no. Council members, scroll up real quick. Council members compared the proposal, which had largely ended in the 1970s, to smoking in airplanes and bell-bottom jeans. That's hilarious. Which is kind of true, right? Like, I think the days of us filling in islands and fucking with the environment are over.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's almost a silly idea when you think about it. Like the political environment today and the way people want to live an environmentally conscious lifestyle, for a developer to suggest, hey, why don't we dig up like thousands of tons of dirt from the ocean floor and build an island and then put buildings on top of it? It's like, good luck.
Yeah,
Like,
seriously, dude.
Yeah. Unanimous vote on the project had riled the Rocky Point neighborhood. Of course it did. People were probably pissed off. Dozens of residences pleaded with council members to not allow a developer to fill an open water point where they often see manatees and dolphins. Yeah.
Exactly.
Once you start involving the manatees, you're not getting shit pushed through, right?
Yeah, no, that was definitely it. Oh, man. I could see how the neighbors would be pissed.
Yeah. What is this right here? When I think about this filling, this outdated policy that was essentially outlawed in the 1970s, why are we going backwards? This is 2018. That was Guido Maniscalco, who's still on the council today.
Beautiful.
I mean,
Beautiful Guido.
it makes sense in a way, right? It's like land is so expensive. Like affordable housing is a big topic right now. We do need more properties being built. We do need more supply. I guess it kind of makes sense to like fill in an area and add some townhomes or something.
No, for sure.
It's just
What
a little
exactly is
crazy.
like, how does that even work? Like, how do you even, you wouldn't own, like, I guess you would own, like,
You
let's
would own
say,
it.
right.
Yeah. You would own the area. If you look at
Like, what would be the requirements for actually filling that in? Like, how would you have ownership? You'd have to have ownership of
well,
the actual coastal side.
You can own waterways. So there's parcels of land that are. It's called just a submerged parcel of land.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Now, getting dredge permits and a fill project and creating that. That's all. I mean, that's an
Yeah.
entirely extensive path you have to go down.
Right.
And obviously, you have to get council approval or whatever municipality that you're in has to
Right.
approve a project like that. I can't imagine anywhere would in the entire country.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even take out oak trees in South Tampa off Gandy
Yeah.
Boulevard.
That's very true.
So if you can't do that, imagine suggesting, hey, let's
Yeah.
blow out the manatee's home and add an island.
Oh my gosh.
It's such
Yeah.
a joke. It's really funny. What was the developer or what was kind of the plan for this project?
It might have stayed anonymous.
Most of the meeting was dominated by Rocky Point residents who
Dana
lined
Shores.
up to register their concerns. Of course, it's kind of a joke. Oh, Lord. And look at this. The lagoon was declared a manatee protection zone in 2004.
That is nuts.
Who would do this? What a funny thing to suggest. Oh God, listen to this. The submerged land was bought by a New York development group about a decade ago. The group said it only planned to build 16 townhomes and that filling the water would improve water quality. Of course it would, Tyler.
They find
The
every
manatees
reason.
are going to be happy that we've improved the water quality. They're not going to be mad we completely filled in their home for 16 townhomes.
Jesus Christ.
Come
dude.
on.
Jesus.
Go
Christ.
figure. It's a New York developer, right?
It's a restoration project.
Doesn't that sound like a perfect like recipe for disaster? Like New York developer comes down to Florida and steals the manatees' homes.
That's
right?
so
Like,
foul. Oh man,
it's a restoration project.
that's crazy. 3 acres. Wow.
It's a restoration project, a Tampa land use consultant. Huh.
Wild.
3 acres were already zoned for residential use. The developers just wanted the city's comprehensive plan to align with the existing zoning. This is about changing the color on a map. David Dickney, one of the lagoon's owners, said he and his partners, even if the council approved, would have to get several more agencies to sign off on the permitting before filling in a portion of the lagoon, of course, right? His group could always reapply or seek land use change through the courts. That's the thing too, right? Like it's not just about the city council. I'm sure you're going to be dealing with the state of Florida, the federal government, Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. I don't think it would be as simple as just going through the city, right?
Manatees protection.
The
something.
MPA, Manatee Protection Agency.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. That's funny, dude.
But that's how Davis Islands was created.
Mm.
So that was in the 1920s. They had dredged a lot of that area in the Hillsborough Bay and Tampa Bay and had actually filled in Davis Island. So it's kind of interesting. If you dig on Davis Islands, you can find shells in the sand and all that. It's because it was dredged out of the bay.
That's crazy.
Davis Islands pre-development. There's actually pictures on Google. If you go to Google Images, you can see what it looked like when it was being filled in. Yeah, so look at that picture right there, man. Oh, and even more interesting, go to the picture below it. DP Davis and Davis Islands to the right of that. So that was Davis Islands, man. Look at that. So it was just scrubland, probably mangroves and all that shit.
Wow.
Now you could never do that today.
No.
You could never
That's so
dredge and
wild.
fill that in, let alone even try to develop the existing island
That's
because
so much.
you can't take out mangroves and there's
Right.
like bird sanctuaries and manatee
Yeah.
you know,
Oh my gosh, dude. Yeah, the amount of wildlife that was there.
imagine being a real estate developer back then where it was just the freaking Wild West and you could just scoop sand up from the bottom of the seafloor and plop it, make an island and build homes on it.
Yeah.
It's
It's
hilarious,
wild to
really.
see that now that there's so many regulations. Like over time,
Mhm.
there's just been so many issues that came up
Oh
that
yeah.
they're like, okay, well, now you have to look at all of these factors. Rather than back then, they look at this piece of land, they're like, wow, you could, build a whole fucking island off this.
Zoom out a little bit. It's so true. Back then, I'm sure they just saw dollar signs in their eyes, right? And they thought, oh my God, this
Yeah.
is perfect.
What
But
is this?
that was the old casino, arcade,
Hmm.
Coliseum. And I'm pretty sure that was like an event center, like a big event center. Dude, Davis Islands was built as a resort community. There was a golf course.
Yeah.
Try to look up Davis Islands, uh, original,
This might
type
be.
in original. That building is still there. Mirasol Hotel and Yacht Basin. Today it's a luxury apartment building. Yeah, Davis Island, like original, development or whatever. But it was developed as a resort community. So it was always intended to be a destination. So it had an event center and a golf course, and it had homes. And obviously, in the late 1920s, there was a depression, a huge depression, the greatest depression the world had ever seen, and that killed the development. And it never really picked back up until decades later. And even when my father was growing up on Davis Islands, my dad was born in 54, so he was, in the late 1950s and the 1960s, he was living there, and he said every other lot was a vacant lot.
Wow.
So Davis Islands never fully was developed all the way, when it was originally built in the 1920s. Davis purchased the land right before the Florida land boom and reported $350,000. Now listen to this. It's rumored that Bayshore Boulevard's residents fought the development of the island for years, claiming that the development was impossible on top of the swampy mudflats. Davis proved them wrong. He dredged the islands and forged them together to create a resort with luxury hotels, a golf course, airport, and expensive residential property. It's said that on opening day in October 1924, all of the 300 plus prepared lots sold for more than 1.5 million total. But like I said, were never built on because I would imagine they wouldn't have been destroyed. Like if my dad said, "Hey, growing up in the 1960s, every other lot was vacant." And I remember even when I was a kid in the 1990s, I had good friends that lived on Davis Islands. I was there all the time as a kid. I mean, I remember there was a lot of empty lots. So I wonder if, oh, you know what probably happened? Duh. If it opened in 1924 and all the lots sold, that was during the bull run in the 1920s. That was the roaring 20s.
Mm.
The end of the 1920s was the Great Depression. I bet a lot of people
Yeah.
had bought the lots and had planned to build,
Right.
and obviously could not
They got, yeah.
because of the crash. That's probably what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Scroll down a
that
little
makes
bit.
sense.
Fascinating. Look at this, dude. Predominant architectural styles, Mediterranean revival was Davis's original development of his choice
I love
to
that.
create a Venetian paradise.
It is a paradise, that's for sure.
D.P. Davis is said to have vanished at sea with no explanation while sailing to Paris
Whoa.
with his friend and mistress.
That's pretty crazy. I was gonna ask. I was about to ask, like, are they still here? The Davises?
Davis's, yeah, disappeared at sea
Huh.
with his side piece.
Wow.
Because if a canal fully separates the island, it's technically considered an archipelago.
Wow.
Hence why its proper name is pluralized, islands. Yeah, it's Davis Islands. People say Davis Island, but they're wrong. It's actually Davis Islands. Isn't that interesting? It's multiple islands. But
Yeah.
you'd really never know driving around the property.
No.
Nearly 100 million cubic feet of sand is said to have been dredged from the bay to create Davis Islands. Some of those homes still exist today. And it's really interesting to see some of those old Mediterraneans. They're so pretty.
Yeah. They need to keep that there. That vibe. I love that architecture.
Look at that real estate photographer back in the day.
Look at that.
It's
No one's
funny how real estate, you know, for at least the past 100 years, in some ways has stayed very similar to the way the profession's done today.
Yeah. Yeah, it is funny. I mean, obviously besides the having to
Internet,
hand
yeah,
deliver, you
yeah,
know,
contracts and
contracts.
shit.
Yeah, exactly. Besides all of that, but
Go,
it's, you know,
go, just hit back one, go back to Google Images because there's advertisements you can see for Davis Islands when he was creating this neighborhood. And so he had like billboards downtown that said, you know, Davis Islands, brand new resort community, you know, buy your lot today. And it's funny because you look at an old advertisement from 100 years ago pertaining to real estate, and in a lot of ways it's similar today. Now, how interesting is that? $10 million to loan to our property owners for building purposes on Davis Islands. They had their own financing. You know,
wild.
so you can see some of that stuff today in some of these like DR Horton developments, right? They have like financing and
Mm-hmm.
how funny. What's that one? All sold out, Davis Islands. $18,138,000 in sales in 31 hours. 8.2 million oversubscribed. Oversubscribed. Look at that. All sold out.
Wow.
Look at the buses they had to tour people around.
Beautiful.
It's interesting too. People talk about this is kind of a topic I've wanted to talk about on the podcast for a while, and I want to get an expert in here, but it is the our tree canopy. Tampa has one of the most amazing tree canopies of really anywhere in the world, any city in the world you go to. There's neighborhoods in Tampa, particularly South Tampa, that have an unbelievable tree canopy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's almost like you're driving through a tunnel. These oak trees are gorgeous here. And there's a huge push by the community to protect the trees, obviously.
Right.
But there's a lot of misguided information out there about the trees and about just the natural environment here locally in general. Um, as an example, Davis Islands, right? People talk about protecting, you know, the ancient oak trees. And I think a lot of people that maybe have moved here in the last few years don't understand, like, dude, it's a man-made island. Like, not one tree is some grandfather 200-year-old oak tree. Like,
Right.
all of these trees were planted by a developer.
Right.
And it's interesting actually too, because if you look at old pictures of South Tampa, the same is true. You know, the oak trees in Tampa are not necessarily all native to this area.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they shouldn't be protected. I just think there's certain information about this tree population that should be out there that people should know. Look up look up an old picture of Tampa. Try to look up like type in Euclid Avenue, EUCLID Avenue, Tampa, like 1920s. You'll find that there really was no oak trees. A lot of the oak trees in South Tampa were planted by developers 100 or so, 70 years ago. And so when people talk about, oh, don't remove the grandfather oaks, well, a lot of those trees were planted by developers, and we should really be careful to protect trees that might be towards the end of their life in favor of not letting people build new homes for their families. We're in an affordable housing crisis. We need to increase supply. People should understand what trees are historic, what trees are the real grandfather oaks, and what trees were just simply planted by a developer 50 or so years ago that have grown up and they're in a bad spot, right? They're in like the middle of a sidewalk, busting up someone's driveway. They're too close to a home, you know, which is threatening when a storm comes through. It's very dangerous to have a large tree next to someone's home. Um, yeah, if you can find the neighborhood. Well, here's a good example. Look at the front of the Tampa Bay Hotel right here. Kind of down one and to the right, iStock, where it says 370 old Tampa photos. Look at the front of the Tampa Bay Hotel, man. Look at the foliage.
Yeah.
If you drive there today, you can't even see
No.
where University of Tampa is because of all those trees have grown up. A lot of people think those are native,
Yeah.
but
That's true. That's
Tampa,
a great
really,
point.
this peninsula was scrubland. It's a lot of sandy
Yeah.
palmettos and pine trees.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you look at, you know what is a good thing to Google? Palmacia about 100 years ago. When you looked out on that property that was Palmacia, there were rarely any oak trees. And now that area is flush with these big, beautiful oak trees. But back then it was mostly scrubs, scrubland, and pine trees. Look at that picture with the railroad right there, man.
I missed it.
Look at that picture right there.
Oh yeah.
Palmacia,
Yeah, wow.
man. Now, do you even see one oak tree?
Ooh, look at that. That's so nuts.
Now, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
That's all pines, man. It's scrub, saw palmettos, and pines.
That's so wild.
So you'll see people on Facebook and Nextdoor and Instagram, social media, whatever, up in arms about these ancient oak trees and we have to protect. A lot of those trees were put in by developers not that long ago. It's not to say we should tear down every oak tree, but people do need the correct information. Look at that picture, man. You know, I want to try to find a tree expert that knows the area. Maybe this one on the bottom right. Let's see how old this picture was. Look at not one oak tree.
Wow.
There's
Yeah.
pictures of Hyde Park. That Hyde Park didn't have a lot of oak trees either. So we'll see if we can find someone. If anyone's listening that knows a good tree expert, I think it would be very interesting to have a discussion
Yeah.
about the natural environment that was here before humans settled the area. Like, what is the real,
No, that'd be a great
like,
episode.
what does the real natural environment look like in Florida? Like, there's so much talk today about preserving the trees and, you know, obviously, like, filling in an area in Rocky Point is pretty egregious, right? Like, we don't
Right.
want to kill the manatees' land, but I think there is an important conversation to be had about, hey, what really is like native Tampa? Like,
Yeah.
what did this area look like 200 years ago before people were really here?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, very interesting. We should definitely have somebody like that on.
Did you type in Euclid Avenue? Did anything pop up there?
Yes.
Euclid
I
Avenue,
did.
Tampa. There's one picture that sticks out. In fact, I might have it on my phone. Scroll down a little bit. Let's see if we can find some
This is
stuff.
in Euclid.
Yeah, Euclid Avenue, 1920s. Old Tampa pictures.
There wasn't much on here.
And it was actually fascinating to see that because I saw a couple people commenting like, whoa, it's really weird. Every time I see an old picture of Tampa, like I don't see any oak trees.
Yeah. Right.
And someone was like, actually, you know, like they're really not native in the volume that you see today to the area. Now,
Right.
of course, there's a million oak trees around that are native, but we never had this canopy. Like you drive around in South Tampa in some neighborhoods and you can't even see the sky.
Yeah.
It's not
Right.
natural,
Right.
obviously.
I bet you out of some of those, there is some natural and like those rare ones that are, you know, and should be,
Yeah.
you know, maintained and kept under protection. But I do get the point of that. A lot of people don't even see that though. They're
Go to
Looking
real
up.
quick. Sorry, go to scroll up and see if you can find that picture that was like old, you know, 300 plus old Tampa pics. See if you can click back on that and see if they have the picture I'm talking about. It's a fascinating picture, dude, because it's fucking Euclid Avenue and there's not one oak tree. And you're looking at an area where today, if you drive, like you can't even see the sky. There's just a crazy amount of trees. It's a very important conversation because I think that we should be careful to say you can't remove a tree under any circumstance. Like they have certain there's a lot of restrictions on trees here, and I just think there's an important conversation that has to do with a balance of providing housing supply so rent isn't so expensive. Like we're losing an unbelievable amount of people because rent is too high here.
right.
Like we personally know people that are moving out of Tampa
Yep.
that are college educated that are here to improve our economy and work, and like they just graduated and they have a, you know, they want to get a high paying job, but the rent is too high. They can't buy a house. They can't live here. They have to go to a different market. What a
Exactly.
shame.
Yeah.
What a shame to lose people that would have otherwise positively contributed to our economy.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And the same note also with housing as well. They're moving to further north, further east, somewhere where the price to actually get in these homes, the median price is around, 300, 400, like
yeah,
a lot lower than what Tampa has quickly
South
become.
Tampa Magazine. Try that one right there. Look at Bayshore Boulevard. Scroll down. Hmm. Old pictures of Tampa, Florida. Try that one right there. That should work. Wonder who we could talk to. I'd love to have an arborist that, you know, has studied the local area that would really have a good understanding of the environment here, even in terms of, you know, manatees and dolphins and some of the waterways that have been
Yeah,
affected by developments like Davis Islands.
exactly.
Like maybe before Davis Islands, the water in the in Tampa Bay was a lot more clear, right?
Right.
Like I would be very curious to talk to someone that knows about the natural environment here.
I agree. That'd be amazing. Not seeing anything.
Yeah, no.
Super interesting topic though. That'd be a great episode.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I actually think I saved it. I don't want to have dead air and bore people. Sorry, everyone. Whatever. It's a fascinating. We'll get someone in here that knows more about it, and we can have a
Yeah.
discussion on it. But it's something I've been thinking about a lot recently because there's a lot of people that are complaining about affordable housing, and they're extremely adamant about rallying for affordable housing. And I think the solution everyone should understand really is supply. I mean, that's the main factor for affordability is there needs to be an amount of supply that can take care of the amount of demand moving into the area.
Right.
The first step is people moving here, right?
Mhm.
We can't stop people from moving here. We live in an unbelievable place. We're close to the beach. There's no state income tax. The weather's amazing. We live in a beautiful area. We have an awesome airport, et cetera, et cetera. People are going to move here no matter what we do. You can't stop people from moving here.
Right.
So knowing that, now how do you mitigate costs? There is an affordable housing crisis. Well, what do we need to do? We need to develop. We need to build
Yep.
sustainably, though,
Right.
correctly, and something that would match our natural environment. Knowing what that natural environment is, looks like, is supposed to be, I think would be extremely helpful in development moving forward. Maybe the answer is to protect certain species of trees and not others, or maybe the answer is to protect trees of a certain age. But the idea that, hey, here's a property in the middle of a city and there's a tree in the middle of it that DP Davis planted, 80 years ago, and therefore no one can build houses on the property.
Right.
That needs to be reevaluated.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be thought about.
Yeah, I
because
agree.
on one hand, you can't complain about affordable housing and then say, well, you can't take out any of the trees.
Right.
Well, the trees are kind of in the way of the housing. There needs to be some sort of a happy medium between the two.
For sure.
Talk about ruffling feathers, though. That conversation will get people pissed off.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of has two different avenues.
Look at Ybor City, man. I don't see any oak trees. It's fascinating, man. It's
Ybor's-
fascinating.
Yeah. When was Ybor developed?
Late 1800s.
Late 1800s.
Yeah, right around when
That
the
makes
Tampa
sense.
Bay Hotel was being built, which was in the late 1800s. That's about the same time Vicente Martinez Ybor kind of came here and, decided that this was the place where he was going to build his cigar manufacturing facilities, and which is around the same time other manufacturers took note and started moving here. That's when everything really popped off, was the late 1800s.
Yeah.
Before that, like we mentioned earlier, it was like the Civil War, and there was a fort here, Fort Brooke. And then before that, Indian tribes. So there really wasn't a lot of heavy development in the area before that. Nothing like obviously New York City, nothing like New Orleans. You know, Tampa really didn't have anything certainly pre-Civil War.
Right. Super interesting, man. Super interesting.
Even the Courtney Campbell Causeway. I mean, what a ridiculously ambitious project that is. Kind of the second one down all the way on the left.
There's that 370 plus.
Yeah, we could click that too. But look at the Courtney Campbell Causeway, man. They fucking built a road on the water.
Yeah.
You think you could do that today?
No.
Hey, here's an idea. We're gonna do a road from Bayshore Boulevard over to Apollo Beach. Like, good luck.
That's nuts. Yeah.
There's such a close connection between, it's really the ultimate connection, like real estate development and the environment. If those two don't go hand in hand, you can end up with a shitty place.
And that's new. Like that environmental piece, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
That environmental piece has just now like started to kick in, where people are like, okay, let's regulate this. Let's be conscious about this.
Yeah.
We have to fight for this, rather than 100 years ago. And I'm sure there was that same thing, but
yeah,
I'm sure it was a lot easier to develop and not have all those regulations to fight through.
I just don't think, I think you're right.
I'm sure the neighborhood, like we saw with the neighbors were pissed about it.
Yeah. Like, I don't think there was the red tape.
For sure.
You didn't have the red tape, but you certainly had people that were concerned, maybe for different reasons. Like it said in the article that the people who lived on Bayshore Boulevard just thought it would be ridiculous, and you couldn't even, it wasn't plausible to go and build an island.
It wasn't the manatees. It wasn't the manatee protection organization that's coming in and setting the regulations saying you can't do this, you know?
I think it had to get really bad for people to realize the importance of the environment. I don't know when that all started. I would imagine around the progressive movements of maybe the 1960s and the hippie, you know, all that.
Yeah.
I would imagine that's when it first started.
Yeah, and I imagine now with the speed of technology and just communication is easier. Now people are just a lot more easier. It's easier to click on with that. You're able to see different environmental impacts that are happening with different projects that now maybe you might have more people stepping up to say like, no, we can't do this.
Well, even the Rocky Point thing as an example, right? Like that developer came in and made a simple suggestion, and probably knew going in there would be feedback,
right?
But most likely because of social media and because of the speed everyone can connect today, they were able to rally together and have 1,000 people show up to the city council meeting.
Exactly.
And so the city councilmen go, you know, they're like, well, we're not going to pass this, or else we're going to be mobbed out of here.
Right. Rather than 100 years ago where you had to, write to your friends and say, like, we have to protest against this and stand for the manatees.
And maybe people give a shit, and maybe they don't. But today, certainly with video evidence and, hey, here's a video of a manatee swimming and enjoying the area where there's going to be a townhome development.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's a clear problem.
You get some visuals to it, and then you're like, shit.
Yeah.
We should protect the manatees.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah. I think it's for the right. I think protecting the environment is super essential to our life here on Earth.
Especially in Tampa, Florida, though. Like, think about how important the environment is here, man. We're surrounded by water.
Oh my God.
Like, we have an incredible tree canopy that should be protected. Like, we don't want to lose all those trees. We don't want to lose our amazing waterways and have poison water that you can't enjoy. And
all the national parks. Like, we need everything, man.
It's insanely
It's super essential. Yeah.
And I think the opposite end of that is like that old Tampa 1905. Pull that picture up right there. Like, if you look at that picture right here, man, old Tampa 1905.
Skimmed it.
Now the volume of concrete buildings, right? Brick, power lines, that looks like shit. Like, that does not look like a city I want to live in. That looks dirty and dingy and horrible. So there's certainly is a happy medium between a city where people live. Like, we're not out in the country. We need to have a city and buildings and cars and roads.
Right.
Like, you got to have that. You got to balance it with parks and trees and clean environment.
Right.
For everyone to enjoy, from your dog to the squirrel that lives in the tree to the birds. I mean, it's got to be this cohesive thing. And I think Tampa's unique because of its tree canopy. I think that there is a happy medium to be found. I just personally think that the idea, you're going to say no to any project that involves removing a tree, when the tree might have been planted by some developer, the same
Right.
person that's advocating to build and increase supply to ease demand to help with the housing crisis, the affordability crisis. I think it would be a little silly to not hear that argument out and talk
Yeah.
to an expert about, hey, what exactly does the natural environment look like?
Right.
Another thing that might be a consideration, and this is just me imagining, right? There has to be some connection with the drainage issues we have here in the city
Absolutely.
between the volume of tree canopy, the leaves getting in the sewer, and the sewers clogging and the flooding in South
Absolutely.
Tampa.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at South Tampa 100 or so years ago, like the picture right here, the trees did not exist as they did today. I would imagine the more trees, I mean, we have enough trees where you look at a satellite of Tampa and you can't even see the roads. Like there's so many trees here. That has to affect stormwater. That has to affect our drainage.
Yeah.
Again, like I'm not saying you take out the trees. I'm not saying that's the solution. But maybe you trim them up. Maybe you
Yeah.
have a mandatory trimming, or maybe there's some sort of a mitigation that you can do that, maybe all the leaves shouldn't fall into the street and be blown into the gutter.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like,
Exactly. Well, I think the closer that you get, unfortunately, just the way that humans work, like look at New York, like any type of, downtown urban core you're going to have a concrete jungle.
yeah.
It's not going to be, the Amazon forest.
Yeah, this ain't Plant City, bro.
It's unfortunate because that's just the way that human dynamics work. So, it's kind of, you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, we have to, like, if we want to continue Tampa's growth and continue building more housing for the people that are coming in here and make, the affordable housing a little bit better, that has to happen.
Yeah, the separation between, where are we defining the urban core and the true urban environments of the city, and then where are we defining the green spaces, and where are we, placing the parks and protecting the parks. As an example, right, like a development maybe out towards Wesley Chapel, well, yeah, you shouldn't take out really any trees. You should figure out a way to go around the trees, obviously.
Yeah.
When you're in the city of Tampa, it's supposed to be a city.
Yeah. Well, then you're just fighting over like the last few, like, like what's already developed, and it has, this has been freaking hundreds and hundreds of years in the making. There's been development here in Tampa. So like the amount of trees that have, like you said, like the amount of trees that were already here pre where we're at today is it hasn't been, there's not an entire forest that was cut down in the last 100 years.
Yeah.
There's a few amount of trees. Like it's not like,
yeah, that's very important.
you have to
establish.
look at it with perspective rather than just looking at it like, okay, now this is what we have, just this entire concrete jungle right here, like no trees to be seen. Like that's just
a good
horrible.
point. Like what was here before the city? Like that's such a good point. Like was this like an Amazon forest that we just bulldozed and then put a city on? Well, the answer is no. Like there was really none of these big trees.
Yeah.
The city was developed on scrub land with pine trees and saw palmettos and a few oak trees here and there. And now that the city is established, what would take precedent? Would the city, would development take precedent because it was here before the tree? Or would a tree take precedent because it was here, developed alongside the city? It was planted. Maybe it's someone's house on Euclid Avenue in the 1930s, and now, 100 years later, here the tree is in this big, beautiful, in its full expression, and maybe it has 50 years left in its life.
Right.
Well, kind of, it's like the chicken or the egg, right? Like who was here first? I don't think that's the way we look at it, though. I don't think we look at who was here first. I just think we look at what's there now.
Yeah.
And what's there now are incredibly gorgeous, large trees that are in the way of development.
Yeah.
And when a developer comes in and they want to create a space for people in a city, it's really interesting to have the argument and say, no, you can't do that because there's a tree there.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like, well, shouldn't we establish where can we build? Where is the urban area? We're in a city, remember.
Right.
We're not cutting down the forest that's been here for hundreds of years. The trees weren't native and natural in that area to begin with. They were planted by
Right.
other developers. It's like,
Well, that's why you probably don't see as much well, there's obviously multiple reasons why, but in an area like Safety Harbor, you don't have all these, it's not downtown Tampa where you have these huge freaking buildings going up and being bulldozing all this historical land. It's Tampa has already had that development and those roads were already there.
yeah.
It's just, working around those areas that do have the very historical trees. You have to kind of look at it with some perspective.
Maybe we fucked up too. Like maybe the oaks were the wrong species, and that's the reason we have so much flooding. And maybe we should have picked a tree like a pine tree that has needles and that is an evergreen tree, and those trees don't drop their leaves.
Right.
And maybe that would have been a smarter idea, hindsight. Maybe oak trees are not the trees we should plant. There's already a shitload of oak trees. They have a bunch of pollen. They really do come with a lot of problems.
Yeah.
They bust up the sidewalk. They make it almost impossible to have nice sidewalks and nice roadways, and they crack foundations of homes. I mean, oak trees are very problematic to living in an urban environment.
Right.
Now, looking at Tampa as a whole, it's fantastic to have a tree canopy like we do.
Yeah.
Driving on Morrison, through New Suburb Beautiful and areas of South Tampa where you're in like this tunnel of oak trees. Like,
Yeah.
what an
Beautiful.
incredibly beautiful and unique thing to have here in the city.
Exactly.
Should we plant more is a different question.
For sure.
And maybe an arborist getting an arborist on the show to talk about that would be a good idea.
I think that's what we got to do.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not an arborist. So
A damn arborist.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll work on that. But
that'd be a good one.
fascinating subject.
Very.
I think that there is a conversation to be had about it.
Absolutely. So who do we have on next?
Next, we've got a couple people lined up. I don't know who'll be the exact next episode, but we've got some exciting conversations planned. Definitely want to dig into some of these specific topics like we've talked about today. And really want to get on some people that are shaping the city. So developers, business owners. Can't forget our history and culture, though.
No, it's a part of it.
We've got some repeat guests that we'll schedule back on the show now that we're in the new studio.
Dude, it looks amazing in here.
Yeah, it
turned out
freaking
great.
incredible.
You guys
man.
got to check out the Instagram page and check out the progress that we're going to be posting.
Yeah, we'll post a video of kind of the studio and let you guys all see kind of what we got going on. But we're back in the freaking heart of it, dude. We are in Ybor City now. We're right on 7th Avenue. We are right above Coyote Ugly, everybody.
Whoop.
So wave to us when you're walking on 7th.
Shout us out.
We've got a studio up here, and it's been a really fun ride for the last 30 weeks. That sounds like a crazy number to me, 30 weeks, right? But it's been a lot of fun doing the show, and I really look forward to how it'll end up. And I think the goal, reflecting over the past few weeks, would be to have, and in a weird sense, like a time capsule of how Tampa was developed. If we keep the show running, maybe in 10 or 15 years, you can look back and kind of witness the people that were in the middle of developing Tampa or in the middle of learning about the history and culture.
Yeah, that would be very interesting.
To hear those conversations in real time.
Yeah, exactly.
I think would be something really special. Where are we at? We about done?
I would say probably about 50
Almost
minutes
an hour.
going. Yeah.
Well, today is Tuesday. This episode will air Friday. Hopefully this hurricane doesn't freaking jackknife and nail us.
Yeah. No,
We'll pray to the Taco Bega.
I think the Safety Harbor Indian Grounds will protect us yet again. So I'm confident in that.
They seem to always do.
But just in case, if anybody, after once this episode airs, if you need anything, reach out to Tampa Bay Developer. We're here. If it takes a hard right turn, which I don't foresee it happening, but
At least the studio's on the second floor.
yeah.
Oh shit, we need power
Might
though.
post up in here.
Yeah, if anyone has a generator they can bring to power our equipment for next Friday's episode, if we get slammed, that would be
If
appreciated.
you're watching this and you have power and we don't have power, come SOS, come save our ships.
This episode is going to air and there's going to be nothing left.
Yeah.
This is the last of Tampa history and culture being recorded right now, and then there's nothing left.
That would be a crazy segment, but no, we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
We'll be fine. We will be just fine.
Awesome, man.
All right, everybody. New studio, episode 30. That is a wrap. Follow along for all of Tampa's history, culture, growth.
Everything Tampa.
Everything Tampa.
Follow producer Stump, the producer of Tampa Bay Developer, on Instagram.
That's right. Producer Stump in the house. It had to be you for 30. We gotta periodically have you on as the guest at like big milestones. Like new studio. I think we had you on episode 20.
Was it 20?
Was it 20 or it was like right around
That would have been
there?
cool if it was 20, but I don't know if it was 20.
I just can't believe we've been doing this 30 weeks.
No, I can't either. No.
Some weeks it's like, holy shit, we don't have a guest. Who are we going to get? Some weeks we are a month booked out.
Yeah, we're chilling and we're just like sitting back, relaxing, like, that's great. And then
Well, we don't want it to turn into like a job in a sense. We don't want it to be a pain in the ass. We want to keep it fun.
It's supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be something that is a pain. It certainly isn't anything we make money on. And I've spent a lot of money trying to make the show, good, right? Like I want people to listen to it. I want there to be quality. I want there to be good information. Obviously, the studio is an important part of that, and the microphones and the cameras and the lighting.
Community.
And, none of that's free.
Everything, man.
We're going to be releasing some sponsorship opportunities to local businesses, which I think will be very exciting in the next few weeks.
Stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned for
That's
that.
going to be exciting.
Very, very exciting. Anyway, though, episode 30, that's a wrap. Love you guys. Stay safe. Hopefully the storm's gone on Friday.
Hopefully we have power.
Hopefully is the key word. All right. Bye, everybody.
Stay safe, everybody. All
Peace
right.
out.
Bye.